That's how the deliverance out of the great tribulation for the remnant of the Jew happens.
Come on, sir.
But folks, the minute that the last Gentile is saved and this church dispensation ends, the world will turn upside down. There will be great chaos. Don't get caught up following the example of the world, or you'll get left still following the example. But what brought Israel, now remember we're talking about examples. What brought Israel from a nation that God had raised up? They were feared by all the other nations. When they moved into that promised land, folks, the nations were afraid of them.
Come on.
Because they saw what God had worked through them. But what brought them from that place of great blessing, and God did bless them.
Yes, He did.
What brought them from that place to a people who were scattered all over the world, who did not have a land, who were murdered by the millions in every place they ran. Every dictator that rose up killed them. From Babylon to Russia to Spain to Hitler, the Jewish blood has soaked the earth. What brought them from a people so blessed that everybody feared them? From a people so blessed that their riches was just had never been before like that. What brought them from that place to a people despised and hated and scattered? Following the wrong example. They followed the example of the people of the land where God had given them. They began to build great idols and get away from God. But see, when He moved them into that promised land, now look at this for an example. They came out of a land that had where they were in bondage. And He brought them into a new land, give them freedom and self-rule. Example. When they were in that land flowing with milk and honey, they had self-rule. God had given them His laws, and He said, follow this and you'll live. And when they would begin to, drift from God, and God would send prophets and judges to bring them back and to tell them where they were going and what was happening. And they'd turn. And God would bless them. As soon as they got really blessed again, they'd begin to drift again. Because they wanted to be like the people around them. Look at 1 Samuel, the 8th chapter. Samuel was a prophet that God raised up to be that prophet in Israel, to tell Israel the way she should go, to kind of be the judge there in Israel. But Samuel was getting old. And Israel had this, they did this for so many years, they had this propensity to kind of start looking around when they got prosperous, seeing what everybody else was doing. That's the spirit. That spirit gets in our children.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And it grows up in us. You ever heard a kid say, why can't I do it, Daddy? Everybody else is doing it. Ever heard that? That's that spirit that says you need to be like everybody else. You need to follow everybody else's example. How we need to folks, most of the people here, the kids is grown, but our grandkids, we need to tell them, you don't need to be following anybody's example but Jesus. Start out young. Walk after Him, and you will avoid a lot of stuff that you're going to get into by being like everybody else. But in the 8th chapter of 1 Samuel, the 4th verse, it says this. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Samuel in Ramah, and said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. Folks, God had just destroyed all the nations before them to give them the land they were in. But they said, we want to be like them. And the thing displeased Samuel when they said, give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the Lord. And the Lord, now you notice that's the harvest part of God. Now, folks, if you begin to pray for something that's contrary to God's will and you just won't have it any other way, the harvest will see you get it. Because it's relentless. It'll work. It'll work for you or against you, but it's up to the seeds you sow into it. And the Lord said unto Samuel, I want you to look at this. Hearken unto the voice of the people. Go ahead. In all that they say unto thee, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. He said, they don't want who I am to be their example. They're not rejecting you, Samuel. They're rejecting who I am. And when we begin to reject who God is, we'll indeed be like everybody else. We will follow the example of everybody else. Give us a king so we can be like everybody else. Not long ago, our own president said this. He said, America is not a Christian nation. Remember that? We're a nation of Islams and Jews and atheists. We're just a scattered bunch of people. We're not a Christian nation. We want to be like everybody else. But see, this nation was founded on the principles of the Jewish Christian faith.
Come on, sir.
Other people came here because we afforded them the freedom to worship as they pleased. But this nation was not founded on Islam principles or Buddhist principles or Hindu principles. It was founded on the principles of the Bible. But we wanted to be like everybody else. It seems like we're getting there as a nation. What do you think? But see, in this, you are not, we're in this nation, but you're not of this nation. The Bible called you, if you know Jesus this morning, He called you a holy nation, a peculiar people. You have to understand who you are in this nation. See, even when Israel went astray, and even when Israel was captured and scattered and destroyed, God had a remnant in there that He took care of. Brought the word through. But see, too many people are dependent on this nation to come back. I'm depending on Jesus to come back because I ain't following this nation.
Amen.
We'll all stand up and pledge allegiance to the flag of this nation. And too many people that declares Christianity won't stand up and pledge allegiance to Jesus.
Come on, that's the truth, sir.
They don't want anybody to think they're a bigot.
Come on, sir. Bless Him, Lord.
Hallelujah. Let's look down now. God began to tell them what happened. Look at verse 11. He said, you go ahead, Samuel. They rejected me. You go ahead and give them a king. But you tell them this. And he said, this will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, to be his horsemen, and some shall run before his chariots. And he will appoint him captains over thousands and captains over 50s, and will set them to ear his ground and to reap his harvest and to make his instruments of war and the instruments of his chariots. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries and to be cooks and to be bakers. And he will take your fields and your vineyards and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. And he will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards and give it to his officers and to his servants. And he will make your messengers and your men servants and your maid servants and your goodliest young man and your asses and put them to work. And he will take the tenth of your sheep, and you shall be his servants, and you shall cry out in that day because of your kings that which you have chosen, you and the Lord shall not, and the Lord shall not hear your voice in that day. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel and said, Nay, but we will have a king, that we also may be like all the nations, that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. He said, he's going to take everything you got. They said, that's all right, just as long as he looks out after us. Sound familiar?
Yep.
We'll just give up our freedom just as long as he's going to look out after us. We don't have to do anything. Thomas Jefferson said a nation that was strong enough to give you everything you wanted could also take everything you have. That's what Samuel's warning them about. But they said, no, we still want a king so he can look out after us. God wasn't good enough.
Come on, what they were saying.
God wasn't good enough. And step by step, folks, the Gentile nations have embraced this plan. Just allow us to take care of you. You just work, and we'll take your money, and we'll tell you how to eat, and we'll tell you what to do, and we'll make sure everything is fine. Check around you, folks. I mean, it's not just overseas, it's here too. All the Gentile nations, all of them, have now fell in step with this very principle. Let the government take care of us. And you can already see that there's riots in the streets worldwide coming here too, already happening here too. Because after a while, they realize, hey, the government can't give me everything because they run out of workers to rob. And blindness is beginning to settle.
Yes, it has, sir. Yes, it has.
Truth sounds funny, Miss Brenda, to a lot of people, doesn't it?
Lord help us.
Because blindness has begun to settle. Because even church people are following the examples of the world, putting their faith in officials and not in God. See, if your faith is in what the government can do, when it collapses, so will you. But if your faith is in the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, what he has proclaimed, he must fulfill, because if he doesn't, the word's not true and everything would collapse. And the word is true. The word is true. And see, so we don't, even though we see these things and even though we are affected by these things, we don't follow after them. We still walk just like we always have. Follow the example of Jesus. Because when the chaos comes, folks, if you're following after him, you'll still hear him saying peace. Peace. You'll still hear him speaking to the storm. Lay down and be quiet.
Come on. Holy is his name.
But it's according to the examples we're following.
Bless him, Lord.
Saying from the time that Israel got the king. You go back and read Israel's history. God loved them. He loved Israel.
Yes,
Still does.
Holy.
He would raise up a godly king for them. That's what they wanted. And even in their rebellion against him, he would still send them a godly king.